I call to order the meeting. It's 5:02 p.m. Wednesday, May 14th. I can't see everybody there, but Ben, let me know if we need a roll call. But if we have quorum, we should be good.
I think we're only down Councilmember Marriott, or no longer Councilmember Marriott, and Jansen, who should be here in a little bit.
Perfect. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from April 9th.
So moved. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. And do we have any public comments?
We have.
We'll start. Yeah, we'll start with in person.
None in the room, so if you're good, I'll unmute Randy Johnson to provide comment.
Perfect. Let's hear from Randy.
All right. All right, Randy, I unmuted you on my end. Feel free to make comment.
This is Randy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, there's a little pop-up that pops up and I have to click on that, I think, on my screen. Okay, yeah, this is Randy Johnson from Laver's. I'll do my normal I present at the Centennial Airport Noise Roundtable. Actually, I attended it and I called into the Centennial Airport Airport Authority Board meeting. I've been doing that. In April, I wrote down 489 training planes. Obviously, they're just planes that I hear. Don't necessarily, they're not doing anything wrong or anything like that. It's just ones I hear going by both Centennial and Rocky Mountain. I did submit 32 complaints to Centennial. Some of the planes have been turning and flying directly over, and I know they can, but it seems like they were purposely doing that. I did submit 10 to Rocky Mountain. There were some that were flying lower and faster and closer, so it's more to let you know. And then it was interesting, last Friday, I had two I call them experimental planes. You guys know more about it than me. They were E300s. One came from Rocky Mountain and one came from Centennial, and they were doing, following each other and doing circles and all that, all around and close to Laver's and obviously Sterling Ranch. I'll say the Southwest training area. Very interesting. They did that. I did from 3:05 p.m. to about 4:22 p.m. They were over Sterling Ranch, came over Laver's, to the southwest and went south of that. Obviously, very, very noticeable. And so I want to let you know that. One thing that's interesting is you had Martin Kelly from the Civil Air Patrol present last week after I had done my public comment. Martin was my college, we were college roommates back in the 80s at New Mexico Tech in Socorro, New Mexico. Just to let you know, small world. When I saw him up there, I said, wow, because I haven't talked to him in a little while. I misplaced his phone number and hadn't seen him. So that was interesting to see him there. Glad to see him there and learn all that was he was doing. I think that basically I want to say, since I'm the normal, is most pilots have been pretty good. I just want to say that continue, at least from Rocky Mountain, they're spreading out. They're being higher and being, I want to say, respectful. I want to let you guys know that. So I think that's all I have. I don't have much time. I don't see timer, but thank you. And thank you for letting me speak. And hey, I might try to get the community event, what I think coming up in a week or two, the morning one, because hopefully I can miss traffic and all that. I'll try to do that. Thanks.
Thanks, Randy. Ben, anyone else online?
No one else online, and I don't believe anyone in the room.
All right. Well, we can go ahead and close public comment and move on to the business items.
All right.
Okay, my goal today with talking about runway 321 is to give you kind of an orientation of where we are with the runway. I know there was a lot of talk in the past about the runway, its potential closure in the future. And since it's the new Airport Advisory Board, I wanted to kind of give you kind of a lesson as where we are on the runway, give you the background data that you have in your packets now, and allow you the opportunity to look over that data and then ask any questions you might have at future meetings. So this is really just an orientation as to the runway, the path we've taken to up to this point in time. And the runway is not closing tomorrow. It's not closing potentially this year. So there's a lot of time for you to digest the information, ask questions, and consider path going forward. So next slide. So the Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport has 3 runways. None of this is probably going to be a surprise, but I want to make sure the packets are complete. 12 left, 30 right, which is the same runway. 12 right, 30 left, and so some dyslexia on the runway orientation there with runway 321. Runway 12 left and 12 right are the primary parallels of the airport, and runway 3 is a crosswind runway used when the winds and traffic allow. I have it highlighted on the map there with runway 3 and 21 in yellow shown. Next slide, please. A little bit of history on the runway. It was originally constructed in the 1960s, and its last major project was between 1988 to 1990, which consisted of about 2 inches of bituminous surface course, which asphalt, and about 10 inches of P401 flexible base course, which is also just another different type of asphalt. We don't have any sub-base information for the runway. So far as we know, it's about 12 inches of asphalt. Next slide, please. We commissioned a study of runway 321 back in 2023 that determined that the reconstruction of the runway would be a $14 million process. Funding is limited. There is no FAA funds for this runway, and it's likely that there wouldn't be any funds available. So we could ask the FAA if they'd fund the project. Their response to us would be maybe, if everything else at the airport was taken care of. In this case, the runway would be a low priority and there would be limited funds, if any, available for that runway. It has infrequent use. About 3,000 operations of the runway were done when this study was done for 2022. And it is true that some of the land the runway occupies could be used for alternative uses. And the study that you have in your packet goes into some detail about what that might be. The next slide. So for runway 321, about 94.38% of the all weather can be used that runway. The FAA does like to see 95% of the primary runway be able to handle all weather. So what you see here is that runway 321 does minimally add to the airport's capacity for all weather operations. Okay, next slide. There are a couple of hotspots related to the runway for runway 321. One is located up at the north side at runway 21, and the other 2 hotspots are located at the runway 3 end, located on Delta. The FAA is making kind of a push to remove as many hotspots as we can from the airport. And so they look at those hotspots and they try to figure out ways to mitigate those. And they've asked us to figure out ways to mitigate those while the runway is still in operation. Next slide. In your packets and in your study, you'll see that there's a cost estimate for the replacement of the runway. At $10.2 million, and that table is in your packet. You can review that and see kind of like how all the line items go together. Taxiway Bravo relocation is about $4.3 million for a total of $14.6 million to relocate both Bravo and the runway. Both projects have to be done together. What you see for Bravo and the runway is that Bravo is too close to the runway at this point in time, and the FAA wants Bravo relocated. Whether that's relocated onto and stapled onto the north apron is a question of design and engineering, but the FAA would say that runway, in order to resurface 321, you would have to move Bravo. And then there's an optional extension of Charlie for $9.7 million.
Next.
In contrast, decommissioning the runway was estimated to be about $131,000, which would just be removing lights and putting pavement X's on the runway. And that's also included in your packet. Next. In your packet, you'll see that a couple different alternatives were determined for the runway. Some of it having to do with operational safety, efficiency, financial stability or sustainability, and consistency with the strategic business plan. Alternate 1 and 2 do say, let's keep the runway and do that at cost. Alternative 3 talks about sacrificing some wind coverage and getting rid of the crosswind runway. Next slide, please. So what happened back in June 2023 is the airport went to the County Board of Commissioners, the Board of County Commissioners, and had a resolution passed that decommissioned the runway or allowed the airport to decommission that runway in the future. In your packet, you will have that full resolution that was passed by the BCC and the presentation that the airport did to the BCC, so you can review the data that was given to the Board of County Commissioners in June of 2023. Where we sit today is that airport operations is doing quarterly inspections of the runway to look at its condition. There's a, next slide, sorry. There's a map there on your right of the slide that kind of is color coded. That those colors don't indicate surface conditions. They're just colorized as the areas the airport is looking at specifically to track its condition over time. And they're going to do that quarterly. They're going to update that and see how conditions of the runway are changing. There's no timeline for the closure of the runway. It's not something the airport is in a hurry to do, but the runway's condition itself will tell us when that runway needs to be closed, either temporarily while a fix is put into place or closed permanently. Next slide. So just to summarize for your packets, this is just an introductory. We're not having a lot of, well, you can ask questions, it's fine, but we're not making any decisions on that runway today. So the packet does include all the cost estimates for full reconstruction, the decommissioning, the BCC resolution that authorized the runway's closure, and then the study from 2023 that recommended the runway's closure. From the airport's perspective, today the runway will close. The question is a matter of when. There isn't funding to replace the runway. There isn't an operational necessity as far as the FAA would be concerned for the runway's continuation. And in order to keep the runway, we have to move Bravo and resurface the runway. So the closure of the runway is not about potential development. It's about the overall condition and compliance with FAA specs for that runway packet. The next slide. If you have questions, I can answer them, but really this is just a way for you to get all the information in a public setting so you have it in your packets. You can read that and review the data, and then you can ask questions. We'll do another follow-up at another advisory board meeting for any questions you might have about the runway. You can certainly ask questions today, and I could try to help them and maybe help feed conversation later about the runway. But today's purpose was just a general overview of the airport's prerogative or thoughts on the runway, where we've been, and where we're thinking of going on the runway. And I'll leave it open to the body if they have any questions about it. Yeah, go ahead.
You may not know this, and they may not have even looked at it this closely, but do you happen to know in 2023, when they did that study, how that 5 or 6% broke down? Was it generally a request based on weather, or was it a convenience factor, the usage of that runway? Do we have any idea how that?
I don't know. What I know from the presentation the airport did to the BCC back in 2023 to talk about the closure of the runway, they talked about how the tower had a prerogative to keep the runway closed and use it as a taxiway rather than a runway. So that could have led to the fact there was decreased ops too, because the tower was using it as a taxiway rather than trying to do it as a runway. I know from a runway's perspective, they like to use the crosswind or the primaries as much as they can, so they can keep those in circulation. Because if they use the crosswind, they have to shut the primaries down in order to get the crosswinds through. I don't know about 5%. I think it was like 1%. It was like 3,000 operations in 2022 that used that runway. And we can try to get as much operational data on that runway if it helps you better understand the runway.
No, I was just curious. I misunderstood. The 94-point-something%.
Yeah,
that was actually.
Yeah. So the FAA would say that every airport that is not able to have 95% of their winds covered by the primaries should have a crosswind. That's what the FAA would say. What they did when they did that study was that there was like 94.35% or what that number actually was. And I have the number, so I'll just pull it up really quick. There's no point in 94.38%. So 94.3% of all weather could use the primaries. It should be 95, so it's slightly less than 95. And the FAA has determined that that difference is kind of irrelevant to the funding equation for them. That 0.62% is nebulous. In fact, the study talks about the FAA thinking that the course of action would be that if you could not land at the airport because of winds, you have other options such as Boulder, Erie, or Greeley, or whatever that you could choose. So in this case, yes, runway 321 does add to the weather capacity of the airport because without it, we don't have 95% coverage of the winds.
Thanks.
Jim, did you have your hand up? No?
Nope.
Oh, okay. All right, that's all I have. If there's more questions you have later or tenants come and talk to you about the runway, certainly take their comments, pass them on to me, and then feel free to bring them up when we bring the runway back up. It's not going to close tomorrow, not going to close today, but it is something that we're actively looking at, and we'll talk about how that affects the Part 150 study later, but that's what I have on the runway today.
All right, sorry for being late, everyone. Thanks for Paul for filling in and you guys didn't go and I knew I was running tight on time and traffic didn't help it. So airport updates, taxiway K and D.
All right, kind of your usual updates on projects that are ongoing. In terms of AAP 69, taxiway Kilo and Delta, we are nearly complete with the utility coordination. In fact, we're planning to dedicate the easements needed for Excel construction on May 20th at the Board of County Commissioners hearing. And that'll allow us to actually schedule construction with Excel to relocate some electric and gas lines that are currently in the right of way of Calendar Drive. Concurrently, we're signing a contract with the fence company who won the contract for the southwest perimeter fence. So that project will kick off here in the next month or two as well. And then we're completing the Jeffco permitting processes for a typical grading permit and then the right-of-way vacation for that section of Calendar Drive that will be bisected by the taxiway. So all that stuff is actually making good progress this month, and we expect maybe by next month we'll actually have a kind of a more firm estimate on construction start for the actual taxiway. In terms of unleaded fuel, this project is out to bid currently. We had our pre-bid meeting actually yesterday in this room, and then did a site walk out and the bulk fuel facility where contractors could kind of evaluate what it looks like out there and what it might take to accomplish that project. But the plans are 100% complete. We're just awaiting bids at this time. And that project closes on June 3rd. So at that point, we'll expect to award the contract. Our understanding is the biggest lead time for this project is actually procuring the tank. We'd love to have this out there as soon as possible, but it could be months from the time we issue the notice to proceed on the contract to actually getting a tank fabricated and delivered here at the airport. So that's the longest lead time at this moment. We'll keep monitoring that situation, but still having the intent to get this out there ASAP. Currently, we're nearly complete with that request for proposals to select an FBO as a fueling partner, and that addresses a bunch of details in terms of service requirements, needing a truck to deliver the fuel out to end users, that sort of thing. Who inspects and maintains the fuel and coordinates deliveries. So we're working through that as well. Part 150 airport noise compatibility study. I think the last couple updates I said we're waiting for a key piece of information from the FAA that we did get that. So the kind of the background work that our consultant RSNH needs to start doing, they're underway now. So they're doing a land use inventory, but also working on operations forecasting and noise modeling. And so it's great to get them going on that. And that will ultimately lead towards that first phase of the project, that development of noise exposure maps. And concurrently, we're working on the community engagement part of that, and I think Eric has a slide that he's gonna cover about that.
Sure. So we talked about the airport's enhanced way to do a technical advisory committee or an advisory committee for the Part 150 study. And we have that split aside to airport users, community members, and then local government planners. We did solicit, for lack of a better word, submissions or applications from the community from April 4th through April 20th, 2025. We got 100 submissions, split between the airport user group and the community members. I think it was something like 25 airport users and 75 community members that were interested in participating in those focus groups. We've gone through some of that selection criteria, and we expect to send out invitations to selected members within the next 2 weeks. We would look at between mid-June for the first focus groups, and then I don't want to say the rest because I don't want to cut off Sydney stuff. So mid-June, we should have the first meeting between the focus groups.
I should say, because it relates to mid-June, is we're discussing whether it's the right time for another update with the consultant at the advisory board, because those focus groups might coincide with the date of the next advisory board meeting, and so they're here already. It might be a good time for them to provide an update to you all, but we'll talk about that over the course of the next month. Oops. Oh boy.
Oh boy,
Where did I go?
you got a long way to go. It is
You have a slide number?
no, I don't actually.
All right, I'll get one away. All right.
So part of that is a public open house. We are tentatively scheduled for early July. We will share that date and that venue as soon as those are set. But it would just be an opportunity for airport stakeholders and the public to learn about the basics of the Part 150 study. It would be the first opportunity for that information to be dispersed. So once we have a venue, once we have a date locked down, we'll be sure to let you know.
Who's doing this one?
I don't care.
Sure. So the Runway Safety Action Team is doing their annual meeting on June 8th, 9 to 11 a.m. That should be clear. It is a virtual meeting. The audience is individuals actively involved in air traffic ops and movement of aircraft, vehicles, and equipment in the airport operations area. If you are interested in attending, let us know and we can make sure we send that Teams link.
I think that's how I sent out invites as
Okay.
well.
Perfect. Still me. We are doing our first open town hall next week. We're very excited. So it's Thursday, May 22nd. We are offering 2 time sessions in hopes to really give everyone an option and a time that works to come. So 10 to 11 a.m. and 5 to 6 p.m. It'll be here in this room. And we're excited that it's going to be an informal opportunity to connect directly with our staff. It's open to anyone that would like to come, community members, airport users. It's just a chance to ask questions, to share feedback, and then for us to kind of share what's coming up. Similar to what we do here at this meeting, but just a chance if someone could make this or has some more direct questions to come and join us 10 to 11 a.m. And or 5 to 6 p.m. next Thursday, May 22nd.
Talk a little bit about the format of that meeting.
Yeah, just it's informal. We'll have some like foam core boards that have like each airport staff member that's going to be talking. We'll have kind of their talking points and things that they are the most equipped to speak about. And then people can just sort of move about the room and ask their questions and have meaningful conversation. And then we have talked about, I think, maybe the last 2 meetings, airport tours. So I wanted to share an update with that, though we have reached out to surrounding city councils and offered to bring them here and share a presentation and give them a tour. So we've sent out those invitations. We're waiting to kind of solidify some dates with those groups. Once we have the opportunity to meet with those city councils, then we will open up tours to the public. So I just wanted to update you about that, since I had shared with our communication strategy that was something we were working toward, and that is now in the works.
That's all for staff updates.
Any questions?
Have we hired someone for the new role?
We have, yep, she started on Monday,
Okay,
so she's in her first week, and we're teaching all the things, and, I'll introduce her at next month's meeting.
Any word from FAA on pattern altitude?
I do not have any update to share on that right now.
What's your gut feeling as far as a point at which we push it?
I would imagine they're waiting for the 150 to tell them what they should do. But I will send an update to the ATC and ask them for a formal follow-up, and I'll provide next update.
Because we didn't really make it about noise.
It's not about noise, it's about en-route traffic pattern altitude again.
Right. So,
They acknowledged receipt there.
Correct, yes, they have received it.
But nothing.
They are a little bit hesitant to have any sort of communications right now. We did hope to have them involved in the Part 150 study, and they have declined to participate in the focus group for air traffic control. So we will have to follow up with them and see where that goes from here.
Do we have any political sway on that with federal officials or, I mean, they say no, it's just no.
Yeah, they have determined that they do not want to participate in the focus groups, but they will participate in the Part 150 study to their capacity.
Interesting.
I sort of have the same question about the pattern altitude issue. Is, you know.
They're not the same, yeah.
Exactly. So at some point, is there maybe some political pressure that could be brought to bear?
I would say that the litigants see them as similar. So,
What questions? Online, we got Paul.
Yeah, Paul's here.
Our next board meeting should be June 11th. While y'all are double checking that, I'll share with you all what I shared with Eric and Ben. I've accepted a new role in Georgia starting in July. So either this one or the June one, depending on calendar schedules, will be my last one. But I want to encourage the great work that's continuing here at this airport to keep on. And I've enjoyed the chance to work with each of you on this airport advisory board, but I wanted to let you all know that as well.
it's been a pleasure having you here.
Congratulations.
We're gonna miss you,
It'll,
especially because one of us is gonna have to be.
that's what Paul called it, second dog.
It was lucky.
I'll speak for the long timer on airport staff who's worked with you, quite a while. Thank you for your service on the board. It's been great to have your insight and support for the airport, and thanks a lot for that.
Got a job change?
Yeah, I am. I'm taking a role back closer to the family and we'll be within 100 miles of all our family, which would be nice. First time in a long time.
Congratulations. And I have something that I'd like to mention. There is a developer that has a piece of land just north of where I live. They are going to propose to the city and county of Broomfield that it be rezoned from commercial to residential. It is 1,600 feet closer to the airport than my community. And just wanted to make you aware of that as that moves on. I'll keep you posted on it.
Appreciate
I
that.
want to say a thing or two about building yet another residential community in the shadow of the airport.
Yeah, we typically get the development referrals from Broomfield when they go through zoning, so I'll be on the lookout for that one.
Yeah. It's Great Western Park again.
Yeah, I think I remember providing comments on that one. It probably wasn't residential, but yeah, that would be a different set of comments.
Is this like that was going to be the life science centers?
No,
Okay.
no.
This is between you and FedEx.
Pretty much between us and 120th where FedEx is, just a little bit further west than FedEx.
Okay, thank you.
Everyone okay with June 11th?
Yeah, Barbara maybe had some.
Barbara, did you have something you want to talk about?
Yes. Soaring Together, Women Power. is a conference coming up, June 28th, and I wanted to let all of you know this. This is my baby. And, it'll be held at Colorado Skies Academy, which is near Centennial Airport. And Saturday, June 28th, 9 to 12. And some of our speakers include Dr. Samantha, Wakes, who's the first female Thunderbird solo pilot. And, she's been commander of many fighter squadrons. So many. Kudos to her. I could go on and on and on. Carolyn Evans will also be a speaker, aerospace engineer at BAE. Gretchen John. She has been CEO of 3 aerospace companies, and Maya D'Agostino, who is in the astronaut training program. And that's what we have so far. So, it's gonna be a great conference, I think, anyway. It's geared to women, but all genders are very welcome.
Anything else from the board? Well, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, team.
Thank you.
Quick for you today.
Thanks, everyone.
4870 if you don't need to.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, 3 through cold wasn't great.
Oh, really?
Long word.
That